What's up, everybody? It's Mr. and Mrs. Bradley back with another video.
Before we get started, don't forget to go ahead and click that subscribe button. Also, click the notification bell so you never miss any one of our uploads. And you want to make sure you're following us on Instagram at Bradley Party of 6.
Yes, all that good stuff. So, we are going to tell you guys the secret to a successful and fulfilling marriage today.
Y'all ready? You want to hear it? We ain't even gonna make you wait for it. You want to hear it? The secret to a long-lasting, successful marriage
is
to understand that your relationship will evolve yearly, monthly, daily, hourly, minutely, secondly, and to learn how to navigate that. Now hear us out. We'll explain.
All right, so if you guys don't know, we ain't gonna go too deep into it, but a small backstory on us. We have been, for those who don't know, we have been together for almost 13 years now, and have been married for 8, be 9 in September of this year. So when we started dating, I was 25 and she was 21. So obviously, fun times. 25 and 21 years old, that's like the pinnacle of like kicking it and fun and like kind of responsibilities, but not like responsible to anybody per se. Like I had a 10-month-old at the time when we met, and she was a senior in college, so
carefree. Best times.
So when we were dating, I would come see her. Most of the time it was like a lot of drinking, a lot of sex, a lot of just kicking it, hanging out, just fun times. Just like this is dope. This is what's up. I don't ever want this euphoria to go away. Would you agree?
No, that's exactly what it was. But eventually, it does go away. And that's in every relationship. I feel like that new portion, it's funny because when I hear people say, oh, our relationship was good for like the first 6 months. Well, it should have been. Like, it better have been. When I hear people say that, it cracks me up because I'm like, if you stayed for a year or 2 years and your relationship wasn't good for the first 6 months, like, that's shame on you, because that should be the best. I don't want to say the best time, but it's the most exciting time because you're learning a new person, you're learning each other, you're on this kind of, like you said, euphoric high, just because everything is so new. It's so exciting, it's so fun, and so the beginning of your relationship is amazing, which is why I would recommend never ever getting married or engaged within that first period.
But people do it.
People, you know what? People have done it. It works. But I'm just saying, from my personal experience, I would recommend never getting married within the first year, especially we were really young. I would recommend never getting married, especially that young, that soon.
I would say I think it's different. Obviously at the different ages you are in life or different phases you are in life. So like us, like I said, she was in college, didn't have a lot of responsibilities. I was freshly home, had been working maybe like a year or whatnot, and we didn't really have a lot of responsibilities.
Freshly home from where?
Well, a year and a half.
In jail?
No, not in jail. Out in California in the service and playing ball. So didn't really have a whole lot of responsibilities, and it was just fun. Like, it was just like, oh, I love this girl. It's dope. Like, we get to hang out. And then she came home, and, and she had to get a job, and she had to work. And that fun girl that I met in college was now a working girl who was tired and had responsibilities and things that she had to do. And I wasn't just a weekend boyfriend anymore. Now I was there Monday through Sunday and had to be accountable for my actions at times and things of that nature.
So not only when I came home, that was we were like 9 months into it, something around there. We were about 9 months into it when I came home from college, after I graduated from college. And like, we had to learn how to be together. We had to learn how to have a relationship together. So every day isn't as exciting because I'm seeing him every day. We didn't live together, but it wasn't as exciting as him coming to visit me on the weekends, or I haven't seen you in 2 weeks. Like, all of that kind of goes away, and we become that day-to-day relationship. So we go from this beginning stages, fun-loving couple, to about 9 months in, and now we're at real life together. Not only did I graduate from college, but like you said, I had to get a job. I bought a new car, so now I have a car note. I'm paying my cell phone bill. I moved out on my own, so I'm paying rent and everything that comes with that. And life changed so quickly, and so did our relationship.
Yeah. So as a man, I gotta have a big ego like most men, and I started to feel like neglected, and to an extent, like things. And when you're that young, you don't look at things and understand what you're going through, or what you're dealing with, or what you're going through. So I just felt like, oh, she ain't around, she don't be around me as much. And we both did some things in like that first, like that 10 to 2 year mark that we like can look back and like, that wasn't the best thing to do. When I think
it was mostly you.
It was mostly me. It was mostly me. Like I told y'all in that other video, it was mostly me.
I was just playing. I mean, it was, but I was just playing.
But she did her she did her thing too. But and that took that's like another phase in our relationship. That was like a real forgiving, understanding, and like, what are we doing portion of our relationship that we had to like get over. Like, I was like really hurt at some of the things that she did. She was really hurt at some of the things that I had done, and it was kind of like, are we gonna be able to get past this? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Throughout that portion of our relationship, we were kind of hanging on by a thread. So we go from this euphoric high down to like the lowest of the low. And I mean, in my mind, so first of all, I'm 22 at this point. So in my mind, it was like, okay, we can either, like, at 22, after almost a year, 10 months is a long time to put into something when you're only 22 years old. You know what I'm saying?
You think about it now, that's really not.
Yeah, but at 22, cool, that's a long time.
Right.
I'm like, man, I've invested 10 months into this. Let's see if we can make it work. So, like he said, from that like 10-month mark to the 2-year mark, there was just a lot of back and forth, a lot of stuff that happened.
Let's just be honest. Let's put it on the table. It was a lot of what's the word? Infidelity. It was sneakiness. It was a lot of lying. Just a lot of things that look back that I'm not proud of. I know it wasn't as much her, but she not proud of. That we just was like, all right, well, what are we doing here?
So once we did get close to that 2-year mark, that's exactly kind of, we had a conversation. It was like, okay, this is just exhausting. What are we doing? Either we're going to move forward together and stop playing, or we're just going to break it off. And obviously we decided to move forward. So the next phase in our relationship was living together.
Yeah. So living together broke, and I didn't have a car. So my car had broke down. My car had been repossessed. I had a car repossessed. I wasn't really working the best job. We decided to move in together. Crazy enough, because we had 2 roommates who kind of bailed on us. So we kind of was like, well, either we're gonna piss or get off the pot, and this is the perfect opportunity to either piss or get off the pot. And that was a whole nother stage. At this point, literally, we are 2 years in. We done went through 3 different phases of our relationship. We done went through the warm and fuzzies. We done went through the rough and rockies. And now we at a point where it's rough and rocky together. Because I'm like, we were at each other's neck as far as money. Like, we didn't have a lot of money. And
I think, but it wasn't that, I don't think it was that we didn't have a lot of money. I think it was that we weren't engaged at this point or married or anything. So our money was separate, but we were trying to, split the bills as much as possible. Right. But I was making more money at the time, so I would have kind of more disposable income. And so we would like argue kind of about who should be paying what or who should be doing what, and it was just, or he wouldn't want to go anywhere.
My ego was huge, and I think that's a real thing, and I think that like women have to understand, like men, we have egos. I'm like, so yeah, she had more disposable income, and I would be, her parents would invite us out to eat, or her friends would be like, we're going out to eat, and I'd be like, well, I'm not going. And she'd be like, wow, I'll pay for it. I'm like, I don't want you to pay for me. I would pay. I had my bills, the bills in the house paid that I was supposed to pay for or whatever, or in the groceries that I was supposed to buy, and I didn't have no money left. I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to stay home. And that caused a rift in our relationship, because it was like, well, I want to go out. Just because you don't have the money to go out don't mean that I want to stay home.
So that was another phase in our relationship, was that living together phase. So we're learning how to live together. We're learning how to cohabitate. And then on top of that, we have financial issues.
So that was fun. Then it was kind of like, then we decided we're going to get married. We're going to get married. And we're going to do this. We're going to ride this thing out. We're going to be married, which anybody who's been married out there know that time in planning a wedding is a rough time in planning a wedding.
That was definitely another phase. It was like planning, like getting engaged and planning our wedding was, I think one, it was hard because again, we didn't have much money. And weddings cost money. And so like planning our wedding and kind of just learning how to budget together, I think at that point, this is where we're really starting to say, okay, well, how do we want to manage our money as a couple? Once we got engaged, we kind of started talking about that. We started, like, I know I talked to my parents kind of how they managed their money together. And we were trying to figure out how we wanted to manage things as a unit at this point. But we were still, I feel like we were even engaged. I don't feel like we were on the exact same page. No. I feel like we were still we're still trying to figure this thing out. You know what I mean? And this is part of, and I don't know, at that point, I don't know that we did understand this, but this is part of knowing that, again, your relationship is going to go through cycles and kind of being mindful. I would say being mindful of, maybe you don't know exactly what cycle you're in, but being mindful when something changes and when that growth is starting to happen, to say, okay, well, let's take a step back and see how we can make sure that we're going to grow together versus apart.
Yeah, because I'm going to give you guys a little insight on my side that I was never really, I actually just told her this when we was in Mexico. I was actually 1 foot in, 1 foot out this relationship for like the better part of, even while we was going through planning our marriage. I never really was committed and devoted like I should have been, which probably would have made things a little easier or transition a little better. Because if you're not all the way in, then you might as well be all the way out. Because I had like thought processes and being like, this ain't gonna work. But I felt like I owed her a marriage. Yes, crazy as that sound, I felt like I owed her to be married. Like, okay, we went through all this, then the least I can do is get married to her. Crazy, I know that sounds beyond fucking stupid, but it's how I was thinking. Because I honestly thought I'm like, oh, we probably won't be married longer than like 1 or 2 years. And obviously we 8 years now, but rewinding a little bit, we was at that point, we planning a marriage, and it was just,
I think we were planning more for a wedding than the marriage. Yeah,
we're definitely planning. Yeah, exactly. We didn't really learn how to communicate with each other. I say until our daughter was like created. Like we didn't really learn how to like communicate with one another. And at that point, we were like almost 4 years into a relationship, and we really didn't know how to communicate with each other.
But this is where I feel like that's a critical and important piece. And I feel like you have to weigh kind of those pros and cons when you get there, because like you said, we are 3-4 years in, we're like struggling. We're struggling financially still. We're struggling
to get on
the same page. We're struggling to communicate. We're struggling kind of with all this stuff. And so I feel like this is where, most people are like, this isn't working, I'm out the door. This isn't working, we got to get a divorce, we got to separate. But I feel like that's where you have to know truly what you want and where you want your relationship to go, and if you're willing to fight to make it work. Yep. Because it could have easily been like, this isn't working, this isn't gonna work.
Yep. So fast forward, we passed the marriage, we married, we moved, we live in another house together. Cece's pregnant, and it was kind of like at that moment, to me, that's where I
got pregnant really fast too after we got married.
Cece's pregnant, and I'm like, we had thrown out the divorce word a couple of times already at this. I had thrown out the divorce word a couple of times at this point, and it was kind of like we had another one of those moments where it was like, well, what are we doing? Are we going to do this and do it right? If not, she never said that I'm leaving, but she was like, I'm not going to keep on letting you just keep saying the divorce word to me. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, we're going to figure this out. And it was in me, and I'm like, you know what? This is what I want. Now, how do I make it to the point where this is not just what I want, but it's going to work for both of us? So how do you feel like we turned that curve now?
I think like you said, just being really having both feet in, heads, hearts, everything in, and saying that we're gonna make this work, and not like in a settling way. I feel like when I say that, it sounds like, oh, we're settling, we're already here, but not in a settling way. More so like, I know this is where I want to be, but I also know that this is going to take work, right, and that marriage doesn't come easily, and I'm figuring that out. And how can we really sit down and get on the same page? I mean, it takes time. It takes work, and it takes commitment. It's not just, I feel like marriage isn't just something that you get into it and you automatically click. I don't know anybody that's happened for. And if it's happened for you, kudos to you, okay? But I don't know anybody who just got married and they were like instantly, man, we were just on the same page from day one, and things have been smooth sailing ever since. Now, I feel like we finally got on the same page, and now we've learned each other and we know how to work. I also think when we talk about where that turning point was, I think it also comes with just time, and getting to know each other and learning each other's buttons, and that shit takes years.
Well, buttons. Is learning how not to push those buttons and how to get your point across, what you're trying to say and what you're trying to convey, without also coming off in a way that's going to hit a nerve with the other person. That is a critical part of a relationship. And
that takes that takes honestly years of practice and years to learn, because I can't think of just like one turning point for us, but I honestly think time has a lot to do with it. And I think a lot of relationships fail, or marriages fail, because you don't give it that time. I feel like if you get divorced, unless something, just ridiculous happens, like abuse or constant cheating or something like that, unless something like that is going on, I feel like if you get divorced within the first 5 years, I don't feel like you've given it enough time, to be quite honest. I feel like if you cheat within the first 5 years because something ain't right or something isn't happening, you didn't give it enough time.
Yeah, I just think I agree. I feel like 5 years is a long time. It sounds like a long time, but that F word that scares the hell out of men forever, in the grand scheme of things, 5 years is not that long to learn somebody, to understand, like, okay, I shouldn't say that, I should say it like this. Or like we had conversations about, like, how we talk to each other, what I need from you versus what I need from you, like, and understanding like that give and take, being like, okay, well, I may have wanted this, but he did this or she did this, and I'm not gonna really like learning how to, I guess, pick your battles is the exact words. Like I'm not everything don't need like an attack on it.
And also learning how to get through to each other.
Yeah.
So I know maybe I was speaking to him one way at the beginning of the relationship, but now I know what it takes to get through to him, and it's not always the same as what it would take to get through to me. Things are different, like how he wants to be spoken to, how he wants to be loved, all of that. We're not the same person
at all,
and it's not the same. So I have to make sure that I'm mindful that I am speaking to him the way he wants to be spoken to, not the way I want to be spoken to.
That is dead on. I couldn't if you don't get nothing out of this video, get that out of this video. The way you love somebody, the way somebody wants to be loved may not be the way that you want to be loved, and understanding that and being able to move through that is going to save your marriage or your relationship abundantly. Like that is like the biggest takeaway from this. For me, that's how that's the biggest takeaway from this for me. Like,
well, we do that all the time. It's like, oh well, I want, you know, I want that that Louis Vuitton bag that I've been asking you for, that you could get for me for Mother's Day. But I've been saying, you know, I want that, but that doesn't necessarily mean if I go out and buy him I don't know,
Off-White J's or something like that.
Well, that doesn't necessarily mean if I go out and buy him a designer something or another that he's gonna be like as excited as I am. You know, he might have just wanted something simple, like let's just go out to eat and spend time together. You know, so you have to learn your partner. That's definitely it.
That's exactly like, that's kind of like our relationship. Like, not saying that she only wants material things, but like,
I like
if I buy, obviously you guys know, if I buy I could buy CC a Louis, and I could just be like, hey, you just put on some heels and something tight. That's all I need. Like, and I'm good. Like but that works with our relationship, and understanding and finding like what works with your relationship is huge. And understanding like your partner don't per se want to be loved the same way you want to be loved, and love them the way that they want to be loved is huge. So yeah, I mean, I think that's huge. I don't really say that a lot, but so asking you this. So at what point do you feel like we got on the same page? Like the page was like, all right, we here. We no longer beefing, because there was beef in our marriage, our relationship. We no longer beefing. We no longer acting a fool. This what you want. This what I want, and it all coming together.
I think it was right before, I feel like it was like a year and a half before we bought our house, the first house. I feel like it was in like 2016. So about 5 years ago, which would have put us at 4 years.
Almost 4 years of marriage. Right?
I feel like it was about 5 years ago that I can't tell you what happened. I just feel like something clicked.
It felt fun again. It felt like we had.
You know what? Let me. Okay, look. You know what? Now it's coming back. So, around 4 years ago, y'all know we had babies back to back. So they were 13 months apart. So around 4 years ago, they're 6 and 7 now. That would have put them at 2 and 3. So I told you guys I got pregnant like right after we got married. What was about 6 months, if that? Yeah, about 6 months. I got pregnant about 6-7 months after we got married. And then we had Morgan in January of 2014, turned around and got pregnant 5 months later, and we had Mariah in February of 2015. So from January 2014 probably until Mariah turned 2, so about even 27, like that was hard. That was a rough time just to be there with 2 small kids. You know, we're still getting our finances together. That was a very rough time in our relationship to try to navigate through all of that. And then we had, I don't know, it was rough. It was hard. And so around 2016, that would have put our kids at 1 and 2, which it was still rough, but I think we had got through the roughest period, you know? And so it felt kind of fun again, you know? It felt like we could actually go do things and we could
not even do things, but we could hang out again. It wasn't like, it just felt like we could joke, we could talk to each other, we could like, I don't know. Maybe
the kids helped with that. Maybe the kids, I don't know. Maybe the kids helped with that and help us find fun and find joy again.
I definitely feel like the kids made my commitment to this family like real. It's easy to walk away from a person. It's hard for most men. I like to think that it's easy to walk away from one person. It's hard to walk away from a family. So like having Morgan, I knew I was like, unless this is like we like toxic, I'm not going nowhere. This is it. This is a woman I'm with for the rest of my life. But we just started having fun. Like you started getting like real big into YouTube. We was like doing videos together. We were like hanging out. It was just, I don't know. I can't even really describe it. Like things just started to feel like normal. Like we obviously I got over. That's another thing that we're gonna hit on here in a second. For the longest time, and she would say this all the time to me. For the longest time, I used to be like, well, you're not the girl I started dating. You're not the girl I was dating. This ain't the girl I was dating. This ain't the girl I was dating. And she was like, well, I'm not the same person that you was dating. Like, I was 21 with no responsibility. I'm 26 with 2 kids and 26 with 2 kids. Like, no, I'm not going to give you all that same stuff I was giving you when we was single and living together. Like, we were like, you got to understand that. And if you don't understand that, you bound for failure.
Yeah, which again, you have to understand where you are in your relationship. I think you have to be able to spot the change and figure out why that change is there and how you can hopefully change together. You have to be able to spot the change. You may not be able to necessarily know why it's changing and what's changing just because you're in the middle of it, but I feel like you have to be able to spot it.
So we're going to get ready to wrap this, bring all this stuff and put it in a nice little bowl for y'all real quick. So like everything, like we said at the beginning, if you're not ready to understand that growth happens yearly, monthly, daily, I don't know about what she's talking about hourly and secondly.
I'm just saying, I could be a different person today as I am tomorrow. I could pick up a new hobby tomorrow and drag him into it. And since he knows me, he understands where that comes from.
And I might be like, and you might get a response like, what the hell is you talking about? But if she keeps pushing it a week later, then I'm like, okay, well, this is serious. This is serious. So let me try to figure out what's going on here. And that's exactly what it is. Like, to be with somebody for the amount of time that it takes to be like a successful marriage, you gotta know, like, you ain't the same person you was at 21, at 31, or 18 and 8. So how you gonna be the same person when you got married at 30 and when you still together at 40? Like, you're not the same person. You done went through 10 years of life. Like, life done beat you up. Things done happening in life. You done learn things. You done seen things. So how can you be the same person? So, and understanding that your partner is gonna grow in that way, you got to, or not. You bound for failure.
Again, spot the growth. You may not know what it is at the time or why it's happening, but just be able to notice changes and work on going through those changes together.
Yeah, you have to understand, like, you got to create new news. Like, there should not be like, oh, it's not how it used to be. It's not how it used to be. Things is, you evolve and you grow. Like, I say all that to say this. That's what I was saying. I say all that to say this. So there are things that make up you as a person, like your core things. Like, one of the things that made me fall in love with Cece was that she's smart, she's vibrant, and she's very enthusiastic and go-getter mentality. So there's core things, same thing that made me fall in love with as far as how she looks and things of that nature, or like that element. So those core things don't go away.
Oh, your looks might go away.
Your looks might fade, but they don't go away. You still look like how you look. You may not be look like a supermodel in
Not
30
if I gained
years.
100 pounds.
Yeah.
It look different.
But what I'm saying is, the core things that you fell in love with should still be around. But you shouldn't be like holding on to like, oh, well, you don't do this no more. You don't do that no more. You don't do this no more. Like, you can ask for those things. And I don't think those things, if it's a fair ask, I don't think those things should die. But you shouldn't hold on to like, oh, well, the relationship just don't feel like how it used to feel.
That's it. It's not going to, and it never will. Our relationship will never feel like it felt those first 9 months. It'll just never feel like that again, you know? And I think that's a temporary feeling, which is why you need to really, if you are going to get married, you need to really know and understand who you're with, because those first few months, those are temporary feelings, okay? Wake up with that person every day. Have to share a room with that person every day, and you will understand.
Yeah, that's a euphoric high that you get on those first few months. Like learning, like I feel like not even the next thing to a successful marriage probably is like getting to know somebody new. It's probably like a successful marriage is like here, and then getting to learn somebody. That getting to learn somebody phase it's a really dope phase. Like you get excited, like you want to look good all the time for them.
It's fun. You get picked up for dates, and you know they picking you up, and they get to see you for the first time. Not y'all just getting dressed in the same room, looking at each other crazy, like hurrying each other up. You know what I mean? Like it's a fun time in the relationship, but the relationships are always fun. They're just not going to be. So
it's
you
not
have to.
Yeah, that's not the basis of what makes a successful relationship. Like finding that lane in your marriage is what's gonna make it successful. Continue to date. Like I still look at CC the same. I still look at CC the same way I do when we first started dating. Like I peek and look around the corner when she getting dressed and stuff of that nature. And I mean, you should still make it fun. You still want to like. You gotta still find a way to make it fun, but understand like it's not gonna be the same way it was in the beginning.
And once you can understand that and let go of notions that you've had about marriage before you got married, I feel like that's another thing. Just letting go of all those notions that you had before you got married, letting go of what your parents' marriage looked like, letting go of what you saw your grandparents do or your aunties and uncles do or the people on TV. Because believe it or not, people look at that as successful relationships. So once you let go of stuff like that, I feel like that's when you can really get to the real and create your own reality. Because how our marriage looks, how our marriage feels is not going to be the same for you and your marriage. So stuff that we do, you may think that is absolutely crazy. And y'all may, you and your partner will be like, no, we're not doing that. That don't make no sense. And that's perfectly fine. You create your own marriage and your own family and your own reality.
Yep, dead on. I said, piggyback on that. I had an associate ask me like, oh man, like y'all relationship looks so great. Like you make me feel like you make me feel like I should get married. And I was like, whoa, don't do that, because my marriage ain't your marriage, and my marriage ain't my next door neighbor marriage. And like what works in every marriage ain't gonna work in every other marriage. And that's you can't like. So when people ask me like, oh, should I get married or what you think about marriage, I'd be like, I don't know about your marriage, but my marriage is great. Like, I can't speak on what your marriage gonna be or what it could be. All I know is my marriage is great, and you find you the right person, your marriage could be great too. That's all I can say on that. Like I never be like, you should definitely get married. I never tell guys like you should definitely get married, because you married the wrong person, you probably won't feel that way.
There's plenty of people who don't feel that way.
Yeah. So that's gonna wrap it for this video, y'all. So lastly, like we said in the beginning, go ahead and repeat it again.
The secret to a successful marriage is understanding that your relationship will evolve and your partner will evolve, and you guys have to evolve together.
Yearly, monthly, daily. Keep that in.
Hourly, minutely, secondly.
yearly, monthly, daily. Keep that in perspective, all right, y'all. So until the next video, it is Mr. and Mrs. Bradley checking out. Peace.